Roy Keane rips into Man United after they threw away 3-goal lead before shootout win over Coventry at Wembley, saying they are hard to like and singling out one player for lack of courage. Roy Keane has disagreed with Harry Maguire's comments after Manchester United's FA Cup semi-final win over Coventry and insisted the Red Devils rode their luck to make it past the championship outfit. The former United captain ripped into Erik ten Hag's side after seeing them give up a 3-0 lead in a thrilling encounter at Wembley. Though United eventually progressed to their final after a shootout victory, Keane believes the side is absent of leaders and bemoaned the same conversations that I had about the team's failings. Some of the United players and supporters weren't going over the top with the celebrations. He said on ITV. They were almost embarrassed to win at the end. Whenever I see this United team, I don't like what I see. Talk about leadership and characters, I don't see that in this United team. My goodness, they rode their luck today. Roy Keane ripped into Manchester United and insisted his former team rode their luck. Rasmus Højlund fired Manchester United into the final of the FA Cup after an exhilarating semi-final at Wembley. There were muted celebrations from the majority of the United team after they had survived the scare. We're having the same conversation every week with Man United, you don't know what you're going to get. This was victory in name only for Man United as they stumble and fumble like drunks in the dark into the FA Cup final, writes Ian Lademan. They keep telling us the FA Cup doesn't matter. Piece by piece they try to strip it bare. But then it goes and gives us this. The best of sport, maybe even the best of life, squeezed into one 3-hour parcel of beautiful, impossible, unrepeatable drama. Does it actually matter who won? Well, yes, and no, all at the same time. At full time the reaction of the Manchester United players told us everything. When their young forward Rasmus Højlund struck the winning penalty that sent United stumbling and fumbling like drunks in the dark into an FA Cup final, half of his teammates didn't even feel as though it was appropriate to celebrate properly. Instead, Harry Maguire and others turned to commiserate with the Coventry players struck down with disappointment in the centre circle. An act of generous sporting spirit, for sure, but also a clear signal of what this was. Victory in name only. The glory and the honour here at Wembley goes to the FA Cup, kicked around the corridors by the powers that be once again this month, and indeed to magnificent, or inspiring Coventry City. Down and out at 0-3 after being outplayed and dominated by their Premier League opponents for 70 minutes, Coventry's comeback to take this semi-final into extra time and onto penalties was perhaps the greatest and most remarkable Wembley has ever seen. I have written about football in these pages for almost 25 years now. Have I seen anything quite like this? I am not terribly sure I have. Rasmus Højlund scored the decisive penalty to send Man United into the final of the FA Cup. Man United were spared embarrassment after Victor Torp looked to have scored a late winner. Torp appeared to have given Coventry a 4-3 lead only for his effort to be ruled out for offside. Goals from Ella Sims, a deflected shot from Callum Maher and then a penalty scored by the magnificent Haji Wright in the 93rd minute reduced Erik ten Hag's United team to an incompetent, disorientated rabble. From that point on, Coventry could have won it, and indeed in the very last minute of extra time, they thought they had. Having seen teammate Sims strike the underside of the bar just minutes earlier, Wright broke one final time down the left in the 120th minute and crossed low for the Dane Victor Torp to poke the ball in. The greatest turnaround of all time was complete, or so we thought. In the posh seats near the press box, a middle-aged Coventry fan and his two young sons cried tears of joy as United's wretched troops lay flat out on the field. VAR saved United, though. Wright had been offside by about half an inch. All of you who wanted technology in our game, this one was for you. That's where the search for perfection has taken us. Too late to cry about it now. Coventry skipper Ben Sheaf skied his penalty to hand Man United a chance to win the game. Andre Onana saved Callum Maher's spot kick to hand the advantage back to the Red Devils. Scott McTominay tapped in from close range to open the scoring at Wembley on Sunday. Harry Maguire rose above the Coventry defence to head home Man United's second goal. Bruno Fernandes gave United what looked to be an unassailable 3-0 lead just before the hour. And, in the end, that was how close Coventry came to a final with Manchester City back here next month. That was how close Ten Hag came to the ultimate indignity. Would United's haplessly doomed manager have survived the week had his team been defeated and derobed here? It's doubtful. New minority shareholder Sir Jim Ratcliffe was in the director's box fresh from running the London Marathon and must have wished he had stayed on the massage table instead. This must have been demoralizing and indeed instructive to watch. As it was, United survived and even managed to withstand a calamitous start to the shootout as the Brazilian Casemiro popped a hopelessly misguided Panenka straight at Coventry goalkeeper Bradley Collins. Coventry then scored their first two through right and talked to leave the supporters at the United end paralysed and mute. By this stage, many of them seemed almost disinterested. Months and years of ever-reducing standards and expectations can do that to you, but it was a remarkable thing to witness all the same. Aher and then captain Ben Sheaf failed for the championship team, the first kick saved by Andre Onana and the second blazed over, and that proved pivotal. Diogo Dalot, Christian Eriksen, Bruno Fernandes and then Hodgland scored to send United to their final, and this stunning piece of sporting theatre was over. Coventry, of course, had worked so hard to get here at all. Not just this season but in the years of struggle that came before it. Up through the pyramid, all the while teetering on the financial brink, sometimes playing home games at stadiums that were not their own. Coventry fans were in full voice for much of the game and were given something to celebrate after Sim's strike. Callum Aher's wayward effort deflected off the back of a United defender and lopped over Andre Onana into the Red Devils' goal. Coventry boss Mark Robins was the coolest man in the building during his team's surge. For a while it looked as though Robins and his players would leave here having not made even a footprint on the game. The first half was utterly one-sided. Scott McTominay scored a tap-in from a Dalot cross in the 23rd minute before Maguire headed in a corner seconds before half-time. Coventry had not managed a single shot of note, and though a shift from 5 defenders to 4 at half-time helped them get a territorial foothold in the second period, United broke away to score through Fernandes' deflected close-range shot in the 59th minute. For long periods Robins had worn a look of perpetual disappointment in the technical area. This looked destined to be an opportunity not taken, a battle never really fought. But then it changed. Somehow and quite incredibly it changed. In 22 minutes from minute 71 to 93, Coventry turned their afternoon from a quiet acceptance of inferiority into one of spellbinding majesty. As Coventry were imbued with a little hope and at 3-1 down, that was all it was, United panicked and pretty much fell to pieces. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, right, had raced back from the London Marathon to join majority owner Avram Glazer, left, at Wembley for the game. Onana, right, saved one of Coventry's penalties before seeing another fly high over his bar. From that point on, Coventry were the better team. Aher scored Coventry's second from 25 yards thanks to a big deflection off Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and then, just as it seemed United had seen off the threat, a steer at the far post from Lewis Binks struck Wan-Bissaka on the arm, and a miserable quarter of an hour for the United defender was complete as Wright rammed home the penalty. United looked like the championship side by now. No shape, no composure, no leaders to help them reimpose authority long since lost. Somehow they survived extra time. Fernandes struck the bar in the 4th minute of the added period, but it was a rare threat. Coventry had more energy, more freedom. Wright pulled a shot across goal and wide and then set up Sims to crash his shot off the same crossbar troubled by Fernandes 15 minutes earlier. The margins by which Torp's last-minute goal were ruled out were tiny, and Coventry fans will never forget it. They all cherish Keith Huchen and his diving header from the 1987 final, but this may now be the club's most infamous Wembley moment. One to argue about at least. As for the rest of us, we left the National Stadium acknowledging a debt of thanks to Robins and his troops for a shot of sky blue adrenaline into the veins of the FA Cup, just when it needed it most. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this, don't forget like and subscribe this channel. Goodbye.